Alrighty then. It's been a while since I've done a proper little review like this. The lighting is, I don't know if it's for me or against me right now. You can see my shadow over in the corner there. Hello. And today we're going to look at a figure which has been really properly highly anticipated by at least me. It's the new Armada Starscream. It's all new and Armada-y and Starscreamy. This is a figure which got me incredibly excited when it was revealed at BotCon this year, and ever since then I've just been sort of waiting for any sort of sign for it to appear. So here's his robot mode, because he comes packaged that way, because nothing comes packaged in vehicle mode anymore. Come on, I'm sort of missing these days now. I want to buy something because it looks like a different thing other than a robot. Anyway, it's pretty good looking robot mode, I'd say. I mean, I've sort of got him mildly posed here, and I think he looks pretty good just sort of standing there, just sort of like brooding. Because this Starscream really, while he is sort of following the old archetype of wanting to be the leader because he doesn't like Megatron, this Starscream is different to G11, which makes me a bit annoyed with the fact that in the comics this body here is just another form for G1 Starscream, and it feels a bit wrong that they've just sort of shoehorned this in because of the whole all the Generations figures are now in the comics thing that they're doing with Hasbro, and it just seems like no. This guy is just 100% a decade ago nostalgia time for me. I never got an Armada Starscream. I always sort of wanted one, and then they sort of just vanished from everywhere, and I think I only ever saw one in Woolworths once. But then the Thundercracker was everywhere, and I bought him instead. Yeah, so as you can see, moving straight into some sort of oldie size comparison, the new Starscream is a lot smaller than the old one. And while there are improvements, there are also slight downsides, and it just ends up feeling like there is merit to having both versions. This isn't necessarily better than this, and this isn't necessarily better than this, so it's a good thing, you know. It's good for someone who was a fan of Armada like me, who might have the original and then have that, and it's just a nice addition to a collection, and it's especially nice to me because I never got this body in those colours, and now I just really want them to make that into this. Come on, Hasbro, repaint everything else into Thundercracker, please do it with this. Let's take a gander at this most excellent head sculpt, and I'm pretty happy that the sort of lighting situation I've got going on here is making that piping flare up. It's pretty damn good light piping right there, but it should be, considering it takes up half of his head. Yeah, this head sculpt is just pure 100% Armada Starscream. It hasn't got a smirk, it hasn't got a scowl, it's just got a sort of dark, brooding look upon his face, and just sums up the character completely. He's a conflicted warrior with all of these different emotions, most of them being rage and hate and variations of them, but also a slight compassion and a sense of honour, and I'm very glad that they managed to capture that in his noggin here. While we're taking a close up at the upper portion of his torso, let's get these launchers going on. Yeah, it's nice that they fold back, because I remember a few times in the comics when Armada Starscream was portrayed, you had bits of the launchers folded up against his back just because it was a bit easy to draw him that way and it made him look a bit better. I have to agree with that. It's good that they fold up so you don't have them jutting miles behind him like I always used to, but I sort of wish that the launchery end bits would stay there and the rest of it would fold back and not just leave these two giant black things over his back. I don't know, it gives you motion in the shoulders because you can't actually get those to move when the launchers are there, which is nice. But yeah, it looks better like that, doesn't it? It could be said that it is a tad disappointing that these are pressure launch missiles, but they're bloody powerful ones. These are probably the most powerful pressure launch mechanisms I have ever encountered, so it's okay that there's no springs in here, and yeah, these yellow bits move independently for some reason. But I do still wish there was some sort of Minicon activation here. I want to be able to plug something into these and then that makes them fire or something like that, but no, that's not going to happen because he doesn't come with a Minicon. What? That is the only real flaw, the only big, huge elephant in the room gripe I have with this figure. So he doesn't come with a little red race car called Swindle. Rages off screen. Yeah, he's got Minicon ports. He technically has one more than the original would have had. He's got ones on his arms like he always used to, and he's got two up top here. And that's all good, yeah, you can still get some stuff going on, but it's not the same when he doesn't come with one. When they did Hotshot here, they made a jolt to go with him, even though it activated no features on him whatsoever. So why couldn't they have done the same with Starscream and given him Swindle? Oh, it annoys me, but ultimately I can still enjoy the figure really well without it, because it was obviously a budget thing that they couldn't give him a minicon because he's got missiles and swords, and you know, ooh, two features like that, oh, that's too much to put into a normal deluxe figure, oh no, we can't have that now, can we? So yeah, I mourn for the fact there isn't a Swindle with this guy, because he was one of the worst minicons and deserves an update. But at the same time, yeah, I can probably live with it. What was that about swords? Yes, you don't just take his wings off this time, you take bits off of the backs of his wings and unfold them, and they're these sort of amber-coloured stabbing utensils. I don't really like these as much as the whole original take the wing off, unfold it affair. But at least, I suppose you get two this time. With the original, before I ever had a chance to experience the mould, I always thought that both wings came off and made swords, so I guess this is a cool bonus in a way, but they're just too small. Look at them, they're puny swords. If you want to look at how they're stored, there's basically this little tab at the back here, and it just sort of slots in, and there's a big old groove cut out here, so they just slot nicely. So that's gimmickry for this Starscream. Yeah, he's pretty well kitted out really, isn't he? There's nothing here that doesn't happen on the original, except like sounds, which were incredibly annoying whenever you press the cockpit accidentally. But let's see how he moves with all this stuff. His head is on a ball joint, which is obviously a lot easier to get to once you fold those out of the way. Yeah, he looks up and down, round and round, and there's a bit more up and down because of the panel his head's on, but then that goes a bit weird. His shoulders, he's actually got them. Yeah, his arms can do that instead of just moving strangely with double jointed elbows. The elbows move okay, it's a pretty tight bend, and his arms go outwards. Oh my god! But I don't really like the way they do that. At least there is a bit of detail in there that sort of fills up the gap while you move the arms up like that, but it means that when the arms are forwards, they can't go out. There's nothing to allow you to do that, so shoulders end up being awkward, and while it is an improvement, it's not really much of one, so sad face. Now we move on to the wrists, which is possibly my largest bone of contention with articulation here. They only do that. They fold in. And if there's one thing they should have kept from the original, is that they should have that's not the past tense of that word, folded that way down into the bottoms of his arms rather than into the side, because then at least you've got a point of articulation. It means you can point his swords at people. This is just pointless. What is that? That's not a point of articulation. People's fists do not need to do that. No, it's not good. And there's no swivel either, so yeah, arms are a little bit cack. The legs, however, are very nice. They move everywhere you need to, and because of the way he transforms with his sort of thighs going into the backs of his legs, he has like proper deep bends in his knees, and he's got nice bending ankles as well, and a bit of a heel thingy, so you can get him into any sort of pose really, and he'll always stand up, and it's so good. It just, yes, dynamism. I don't really care about tilts anymore, just make sure ankles can do that, because then you can get people standing up in cool poses like this. So that's Starscream's robot mode. I think I've spoken enough about that. Really, it's pretty darn good. It's got everything you need, and you just look cool. But because Armada was sort of my G1, it means that I can be incredibly nitpicky about this figure. While everything I've just gone through means it's really good, and it is really good, I'm struggling to see how it's worth the £18 and then whatever I spent on it. Like Brad said recently, it's a good £10 toy for £10. I didn't pay £10. You're not going to pay £10 if you live anywhere but the middle of the USA. So I don't know really. It's certainly good, but I'm about to go through and show you some bits which I wish were a little bit different and spark the ire of Armada fanboyism within me and cause me to rage ever so slightly, but only ever so slightly. I've already gone through how his arms don't work to my taste, but you'll see there's a little circly thing here. That should have a Decepticon symbol on it. poor show boys. Then you come down to the legs, and they're not actually meant to be all black. Only the sort of front piece, and then everything else is meant to be silver, or I suppose they could have done grey up here, and that would have been fine. So that looks a bit off. But then, all over his body, there should be little pieces of like exposed workings, little asymmetrical details, like there should be a pattern on his legs where you see some wires, or there should be stuff in other places that makes him look not quite so perfect and glossy and brand new. He's meant to look a little bit beaten up and showing workings and roboty bits and whatever, like all the Armada Decepticons, because they all had this sort of asymmetrical theme of looking like military things that had been in wars and had some sort of damage, or at least a chaotic theme to their detailing, and there's none of that here. He looks just sort of perfect and symmetrical, and well, that's good, and yeah, whatever. I'd like there to be a few more little details that harken back to that design choice, which was, I think, a very good road to go down, because it really separated the look between the Decepticons and the Autobots. Because all the cons looked sort of, I don't think it really was meant to be battle damage or anything like that. It was just meant to imply a more chaotic nature because they were slightly asymmetrical and had all this other working stuff that you could see that you probably weren't meant to. And all the Autobots looked all clean and smooth and didn't have any panel lines or anything like that, and they were all sleek. All of that stuff that implied a nice sort of order to chaos juxtaposition and sort of paradigm shift between the two factions isn't there anymore, and I kind of wish it was. It's time to transform it, and this isn't going to take long, let's face it. The original wouldn't. The only really good thing about the simplified nature of these new figures is that it carries the original transformation scheme over really nicely, but still adds to it. So, yeah, there's nothing to complain about there. Let's start by folding the fists in the wrong way, and then opening the chest up. Now, that's how easy it should be to change a jet former's chest. Just pull it up, like that. None of your fiffing and faffing around and twisting things around and multiple hinges. One hinge to just go up like that. That's how we did it in the old days. Then you can fold the heels in of his feet, and then they sort of point downwards a bit. And they're sort of meant to, otherwise they don't fit. Then you can extend the little flaps, fins, whatever you want to call these, aileron ends. I used to know what bits of the plane were called, I'm slowly forgetting. Yeah, make those bits bigger out of his knees and put them in the wrong way so it looks like he needs a wee. Fold this bit up. I wish it wasn't yellow. Let's go into more nitpicking here. You've got some nice detailing in his back, which is all sort of new and slightly movie-ish, slightly prime-ish. It's all the sort of new jaggedy, angular details of the past few years. But why is it yellow? Why is there so much yellow? Why are there all these connecting parts are bright yellow? No. There should be more grey, there should be more black. Yeah, the whole sort of top section, that's something I should have pointed out in robot mode. Underneath the launchers, all this is meant to be grey and it's meant to be red at the edges. What's going on here? Get the colour palette right, guys, come on. Turn him over to his underside. There's a little flap here which hides his face, which is quite clever. And I must point out that when you go from vehicle to robot, it still retains that little bit of head reveal, slight automorph because of the way things get pushed. So while there isn't a spring-loaded thing, his head still pops up, and I like that very much, yes. But yeah, you've got it all extended out like that, and then you just fold the knees in towards the middle, just like good old days, and they clip together, and you've sort of got the back end of the plane. Then you just sort of need to angle the wings so that they're flat, which is a little bit difficult to do because all this stuff, the way his shoulders are sculpted, tends to get in the way quite a lot. Straighten his arms, pull the shoulders down, so what you might have thought was the top surface of them is actually the front surface, I guess. Whatever. And then there's some tabs on his sort of elbows, I guess, that tab into the wings. Wasn't that easy, children? Yes, I think it rather was. So here is his vehicle mode. It's that weird looking sort of beef-tacular ultra power jet that it always used to be, that for some reason has no parts sticking up here. So how does it steer? I've got no idea. Let's forget about that. It's good. It always looked good. This always looked like a good jet mode. I mean, yeah, it's a bit basic, you know, you just fold all the robot stuff up and backwards. It's not advanced, it's not really that clever, but it is very, very satisfying, I have to say. And while this jet wouldn't really have looked like anything on Earth, I don't think it was always intended to be in Earth mode. I could never tell personally. But on the box, it finally describes this as a Cybertronian jet. So there you go, it's a weird alien thing, so it doesn't need to have rudders and things like that. Of course, the launchers still work in this mode, and they don't look quite as crazy as, you know, big giant things that flip over the front of the jet. And essentially, I always thought that these bits were the engines, so it always looked weird that the engines would then start pointing forward, and how would it fly when the launchers were out, etc, etc. Yeah, it's good, it's fine, I like that. Nice big intakes, which is another nitpicky thing. They're hexagonally sort of things, aren't they, instead of being round, but I like that, it's a nice touch. A few more angles never hurt anyone. But why are these bits bigger? I don't get that. While they've actually sort of thought about it and done something to let the launchers not take up quite so much room in robot mode, they take up more room in an equivalent fashion in vehicle mode. They're thicker, they're wider. There's not really any kibble on the underside, which is good because it always was a little bit kibbly on the underside with the arms forming weird bits that I never really knew what they were. You've got a nice translucent cockpit in the front, that was never see-through on the old one. But again, another bit of nitpickery. I wish it had the sort of hexagonal pattern to it, like the panes of glass. Nose cone isn't rubbery, it's completely solid and will probably take out the eye of a small child if you were to throw this like some sort of weapon. He's got landing gear though for once, which is nice because of course you don't get a little race car to plug in under there to make it. And there's some at the back as well that folds out rather difficultly. There we go. But there is one thing I have to point out here. It's very, very small. For a modern day deluxe jet former, this is the smallest I've ever seen. It's not perfect. Maybe I can see that just because I'm such a big Armada fan, but no one else is really going to pick up on the fact that there should be black lines on the tops of the wings, and what are these pointy bits, they were never here before. But all in all, it's a nice new Starscream. It looks like, in my opinion, the best Starscream. So therefore, if you are a Starscream fan, it's obviously a must-buy for you. If you're an Armada fan, it's a must-buy for you. Because how many bloody Armada updates have we ever had? Oh, that's right, 2. So, yeah, to me, it was an excellently exciting thing to get my hands on. And the whole build-up and the anticipation towards getting this thing was just, it was sweet ecstasy. Quite exquisite excitement. And getting my hands on the thing, I've got to say, there was a small iota. But literally, like, you know, a quark within a hydrogen atom level of scale. I really, really, really do like this figure, and it just feels so good and new and just ultimately excellent to have, finally, an Armada Starscream in the year that I was thinking about buying that proper original one, and then this pops up and it's like, you know what, you don't have to go down that route. You don't need to go and buy the same mould as the one you've already got. They're going to give you a brand spanking new thing. And that really is where my opinion falls on this. This is the figure that I have always wanted. I mean, back in the days when I got Thundercracker, it was a little bit disappointing that I couldn't get Starscream. But I quickly realised that I preferred Thundercracker's colour scheme, and of course, I just became endeared to that figure because, look at it! Isn't it good? Yes, look into his cold grey eyes. One day maybe I'll do a review of him and just show you how much I really do love that. But at the same time, in a sort of almost mirror image of this, when I got that I was a bit disappointed by him because his legs don't really move properly and his arms don't really move properly and he's a little bit stiff to be a good swordsman. Now I've got this, it's like, yes, all the joints I ever wanted are here. He moves properly, his legs go outwards, his arms go outwards. His head moves, he's got some light piping, and the missile launchers fold away against his back. So, in a measure of that, this is everything I could have wanted from an updated Starscream. But, because I am such a big fan of this look, I have found probably too many flaws with it than I was probably meant to, and that has diminished my enjoyment of it a tiny bit. But, enacting a sudden lighting change I should have done a few minutes ago, of course, all of that Minicon grief can be fixed simply by owning some already. Of course, bringing the massive Armada glutton that I was back in the day, I went and bought goddamn nearly all those minicons there ever were. So of course I can outfit him with. What's this? The Air Assault Team here. Yup, feels good, man. Feels good. Or, thanks to the fact he has 5mm handholds, the Dark Saber. Oh yeah, son. That's how we roll here. Even if the sword does weigh about as much as the figure himself. Armada Starscream then. A lovely brand new superposable figure with excellent pedigree. And if you don't want to lose sleep at night because he hasn't got a minicon, just think of it this way. This is him before he found Swindle.